I'm not protecting the organization. Of course, I protect the organization, but I cannot say that I can 100% do it me alone or my team. I think we're all in this together.
How can they change to a value-driven security program that aligns more closely to business objectives?
Yeah, I think that's the silver bullet question, of course. I think the S is maybe security, but also maybe storytelling.
Yeah.
So if you want to drive the transformation in your organization, I think it's important that you understand what needs to happen, that you drive a roadmap. But I think it's equally important that you start sharing it, maybe even selling it, marketing it, branding it to your board, to senior leadership, to IT, to OT, etc. I think that is key.
Welcome to Reinvent Security, the podcast where we on a monthly basis learn from industry leaders how they reinvented security and how you can turn their experience into action. Join us as we chat with inspiring security professionals dissecting the field of information security and its developments. Because when the episode ends, the real question begins. What will you do differently tomorrow? Let's reinvent our field, one strategy at a time. My name is Jeroen Irfaan. I'm a transformational CISO with 2 decades of experience, and I'm here together with my co-host Irfaan Santu.
I am Irfaan Santu, an information security executive and extremely passionate about solving the multifaceted information security problem.
And joining us today is Carlo Schreurs, the Chief Information Security Officer of FrieslandCampina. I think that everybody in the Netherlands knows FrieslandCampina, but we just learned they do way more than just your favorite yogurt or milk. So Carlo has been a transformational leader in information security with a focus on adapting the evolving concept of zero trust to meet the demands of digital transformation. Today we'll be diving into a thought-provoking conversation around the shift from zero trust to what Carlo refers to as digital or adaptive trust. The traditional zero trust model is often perceived as rigid. But in a world driven by digital transformation, cybersecurity demands a more dynamic, human-centered approach that aligns with the way people and organizations work. Carlo will share insights on transforming cybersecurity from a purely risk-averse discipline to one that fosters value creation, cultural change, and continuous improvement within organizations. Stay tuned as we explore how transformational CISOs go beyond data, policies, and technologies to successfully lead cybersecurity programs while bridging the gap between security and broader digital transformation initiatives. So, Carlo, welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure to be here. What an introduction!
We did our best. So one of the first questions we always ask our guest is, how are you contributing to reinventing security, and maybe a little bit more specifically in the field of zero trust, adaptive digital trust? Could you explain yourself?
Yeah. Before I could start reinventing security, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I first needed to reinvent myself a little bit.
Wow.
I'm in the industry for a while, since 1995, I think, when I graduated from university.
Yeah.
Since then, all kind of different roles, but suddenly 3 years ago, I needed to step back for a short while, needed to go to surgery, needed to come back. And that is specifically a moment where you start to take a step back, reflect on your career, and then think, what do I want to do? And I was thinking, do I want to go back to my old role? Do I want to do something new? And I love my old role. I love the people, but I also felt I needed to step into a different world. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, would you become CISO of FrieslandCampina? I would have said that's an interesting thought process. But eventually, during that process, I said I wanted to take up a transformational journey. I wanted to go a little bit more into content again. And excite myself a little bit. And then suddenly the CISO role came up, and then I decided to take it.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is when you come back from a surgery and you need to regain entrance into the labor market again, I think everybody would say, let's not take the CISO role. Because
would not be my first option, no.
No, because it's easy to burn out, and there's a lot of stress and so much coming your way. But I really loved the challenge that was ahead of me, and I took it. And I have not regretted for a second since
Wow.
then. I really love it, and it's great.
I assume you have a great team that supports you. Because reintegrating, or at least after, like you said, surgery, and then entering the labor market again, and then taking a CISO role is kind of a big step normally if you don't have like a great team that's
and plus extremely talented, right? To be able to just with a CISO role.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was, was it last year, February, stepped into the role, 53. I was thinking like, let's do shake up myself a little bit. And
cool.
Yeah, I took 3 premises with me. I call it 3 Ps, what I brought to the industry and brought to the team.
So what are they?
Yeah, it's pace.
Okay.
So speed.
Yeah.
It's passion. So really ambition and making something great again, and perseverance. So I don't take no for an answer.
It's kind of a good thing to have as a CISO, not take no for an answer. Yeah. I love the 3 Ps.
Yeah, it sticks with you.
Yeah. You had
but it is interesting that you say it, because I think that's key to what we're going to discuss later about this whole transformational journey of cybersecurity. I think it's all about branding and things people can remember, acronyms, visualizing it, bringing it close to what people can understand about cybersecurity.
It's the messaging.
It is a little. There is a little bit of marketing involved, right? So that's good to touch in this podcast. So you had a little while where you reinvented yourself, and then you started to, I would say, reinvent our field, or at least crucial concepts within the field. So what initially inspired you to rethink the traditional security approach and adapt it to a little bit more like digital transformation?
Yeah, when I stepped into the role, of course, I had a lot of conversation, and I immediately started reaching out also to colleagues in the industry. For instance, Dimitri van Zandvliet, who I spoke to earlier, everybody was so helpful in providing them perspectives, etc. That was very nice. But I also took an analytic view on it, and then I was looking like, I see a lot of tactical operational activities going on in the cybersecurity field. Are we really scratching the surface from a strategic point of view? And there I felt like, that's maybe something that we can improve explore further and improve on. Yeah. And also it was a bit static, rigid, longer term. So the agility was also not really there. And I also noticed that it's very complicated sometimes for people, complex for people, to really explain the concepts, what they are doing in more business terms. So boards, senior leaders in the organization understand what's going on. So my view was, I need to elevate this team, and I need to elevate this capability in the organization to a center of excellence level. Yeah, we basically provide guidance to the organization on cybersecurity. You drive the roadmap, you drive the transformation while you stay responsible, but you build capabilities within the organization. That's my primary promise.
And that's an excellent way of driving a security program. Like it will completely elevate to a more of a center of excellence when you look at just as capabilities. You as a company should be able to do certain things, and you should drive improving the maturity, improving the efficiency, the quality of certain services that you provide. So I absolutely love that. Is that also the thing that you see is the biggest thing why traditional security approaches are falling short? The not being able to drive I would say, roadmap full of capabilities, or is there more?
No, I think everybody can build a roadmap and drive the capabilities. What I see is that it's sometimes difficult for people to really become proactive. I think I also see that sometimes it's really much really approach from a process point of view or from a technology point of view. The agility is not always there, and we try to be perfect. We want to have everything before we start. I think that's a little bit of the short observations I have speaking to colleagues, looking at myself, and I also look in the mirror here. I also have these threats, but also looking at my team. Yeah. And basically, what I was thinking about it, and I'm intrigued by psychology, organization psychology, but also cyber psychology. And then if you look at it, I did a study also in the past on transformative capabilities in organizations and in people. And then you come to I don't know if you know it, the drama triangle.
No, me neither.
Okay, well, when you have conversations with people, so sometimes you think like, oh, where is this conversation going? Huh? So you have a conversation, and then basically there are three areas. So people become prosecutor. So that's I tell you what to do, and you need to follow. Or they're the victim. Right?
Yeah.
So they think, oh yeah, why does it always happen to me, etc. And they're more of the rescuer.
Yeah.
Right? I come to you. I am from cybersecurity. I will come to you. I will tell you what to do. Oh, you don't know what to do. I will help you continuously.
Yeah.
And cognitive, everybody will say like, oh, that's great. They're helping me, or they're this, or they're that. But it doesn't provide any progression along the way, right? Yeah. So this is more from an individual psychology, but you can also adhere it to the cybersecurity or to technology practices, where cybersecurity teams are actually going into these three roles. Mm-hmm. So they're continuously telling the organization what to do, the prosecutor, or they're the helper, like, oh yeah, I will help you continuously, or the victim, like, oh, we don't have enough budget, we don't have enough this, we don't have enough that, and that is an area where people then get stuck.
Yeah.
And that's what I see happening. And I also sometimes notice it with myself that it's happening. And I think what helps is creating a different approach, which they call the winner triangle.
Okay.
Then you go much more into other areas, which are really helpful. And that will help a lot. This whole thing comes from transactional analysis, which was originally brought to the industry by Eric Byrne. It's really interesting.
Nice. I this is going to end up in the show notes. Like this is going to be one of the resources that we're going to reference.
Yeah, by the way, let's maybe. So that is the victim, the persecutor, and the rescuer.
Yeah.
They are knowledgeably good, but when you go to your heart, it's like, I'm continuously doing this. Why am I doing this? It is not satisfying for the organization or myself. There's a way out, and that's the winner triangle.
The winner triangle.
And that is show vulnerability, be assertive, and caring.
Caring and show assertiveness, right?
Yeah, so assertiveness, vulnerability, and caring. And then you can say, what is the difference between being a victim and being vulnerable? Yeah, victim is like, I don't know, I cannot do it. While vulnerable is, yes,
I'm struggling.
We're going on this journey together. Mm-hmm. You're asking me all these kind of questions as cybersecurity lead. I have 80% of the answers for you. I don't know the last 20%. This is the journey we're in. And I also don't know. We'll figure it out together.
So funny. I see so much of what Carlo is explaining into the journey that I'm currently on. So I don't know the theoretical reference that you just did, but like I always tell my team, for example, we are going to teach them how to ride a bike. So we're going to support them, just like a dad teaches his kids how to ride a bike. Yeah. We're not going to bike for you. We're not going to take you. We're not going to drive the car for you. You're going to bike. You're going to hop on the bike. We're gonna care that you don't fall, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna keep you steady, and we're gonna help you along the way to achieve the goals that we have. We also don't know all the answers. Yeah. We don't know where we're gonna bike, but we're just gonna take it one step at a time, and we'll take you on the journey with us. So it's. But
we're not continuously keeping the bike.
No.
Or continuously
we're
taking you off the street when you fall, when you need help. We're there.
Yeah.
But sometimes it hurts. You need to step up again.
What a brilliant concept. The winners triangle, right?
Winners triangle.
Yeah.
Wow. Brilliant concept.
So for me, that's what I always tell them. Like, okay, we're going to hold them for a while, then we'll let them go, but we're going to stay near, see if they bike, and then at some point you gotta let them go. So. Yeah. Excellent.
And it's not so what they tell you need to do. It's also being assertive, right? There are certain boundaries. You need to comply with certain things. There's not negotiable.
Yeah.
So it's also not like, winner, we do everything you say. No, we have strict boundaries, but we'll help. We are not 100% sure where it will end up, but we are pretty good where we're going.
So, Carlo, we are shifting towards something that is called a more digital and adaptive trust. Could you elaborate on this concept and why it is essential to cybersecurity programs?
Yeah, I'm not an architect. So I'm not going into the identity and access management and whatever you want to call out, but it's more a philosophy, right? To start off with, I met the founder of Zero Trust once, and a very knowledgeable guy, knows, I think, much more about technical stuff than I do, but he was also talking. He saw after every tree, he saw something happening, right? And I'm thinking like and I was really thinking about the term zero trust, right? So then, Irfaan, you work in my company, right? We pay you a lot of money, and you come to the office every day, and then we say like, okay, Irfaan, you need to invent beautiful things today. You need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to do that, and then you open up your laptop, and then you start working, and then you say like, okay, but we have a zero trust policy in this company. What would you think? What kind of idea would it give to you if I say we have zero trust?
Yeah, it's like I'm not welcome here. I cannot innovate. I cannot.
Yeah. So let alone the whole concept of zero trust, which I think there are beautiful concepts in it.
Yeah.
I think the term alone.
Yes.
It's a bit negative.
Yeah, and of course I'm not going to the board saying, "Oh, we have zero trust and we did that," but people find it, and architects are speaking about it. So the first idea was let's not use that term and maybe refer to something like adaptive trust, which is like depending the situation you are in, depending the device you're using, the context you're in, whatever. We determine what is best for you and how we can secure working in the best way. That was really about the philosophy. And then the second thinking was like, if we are a organization who is very fond of user satisfaction. We score an IT user satisfaction of 8.8 out of 10.
Wow. That's nice.
We were never there before. Since the last year, we score really high. And I think that high scoring is also a very good place to drive cybersecurity initiatives, because people feel like, okay, we understand the technology, we know what to do with it, it's rolled out properly, there's proper governance around it, they're giving us the right tooling, etc. And basically we're building on that concept, high user satisfaction, etc. And I'm not saying zero trust will not create user satisfaction, but we are looking diligently, where do we need zero trust, because it's a highly secure environment, etc. And where can you maybe apply more adaptive trust, where you say like, depending on the context, we will give you this access, or we do this, this, and this. So it's not one or the other. It's basically blending two philosophies, which are not mutually exclusive to each other.
Yeah, and you can also give them a little bit more freedom, right? So if you adhere to adaptive trust, you can also say to your product development team, we trust you. Stay within these borders. Stay within this playground or zandbak, as we would say in Dutch. But play here. Yeah. Stay there, and then it's good, right? Then it's okay. We trust you to develop a product to your best abilities with the tooling that we give you. Within in the context that we give you.
And if I can add, we had earlier on this year, we had a manager from Uber talking about insider threat. And one of the key things she explained to us, she has been doing insider threat for many years. And one of the key things she explained is you have to also, it's a soft control, a soft element, right, to actually create trust within your employees, and loyalty. So, as one of the controls for them to pierce harder to do wrong things to the company. And when you start with your employees to saying zero trust, I don't trust you, it's actually conflicting with one of the concepts within information security as well. So I really, really appreciate that you thought of it differently, to say the concepts might be the same, but let's at least call it differently. Let's not call it zero trust, let's call it adaptive trust.
But also if you say to people like, if you give the impression of zero trust, we don't trust you. What do people, if you say to people if you say to your children, you're not allowed to do this and this and this and this and this and this,
they rebel.
They stop thinking and they start finding ways to do it, right? So what we try to do is finding a nice balance between providing guide rails, so stay within the guide rails, but we give you the freedom within the frame to act and to think yourself.
To think yourself,
and of course there are limits to that. But
can I ask, how is the industry responding on this term that you probably have introduced, or it's becoming more familiar? I can imagine there are two camps.
Right on it, but
you should.
I think the adaptive trust is out there, but. I think I mentioned it. I mentioned it in our organization a couple of times to our architects, and also the concept they adhere to. And I spoke at the conference, I think a couple of weeks ago, where I threw it out, saying like, how would your employees think? And then a lot of people afterwards came to me, that is a snippet I really will remember.
Oh, this is so positive. I really like that. And the reason why I asked is, Jeroen, I remember going to a conference like a year ago or something like that. There was also a lot of discussion on zero trust. People get very passionate about, no, it should be zero trust. So you have I think you have like two camps of people that really think, no, that's the concept, we need to stick to it. And then another camp of people are saying, yeah, but it's working against us if we use that sort of terminology. So I really appreciate it.
And I'm a bit in the middle. I don't like the terminology, but I also like there are very good concepts.
The concepts itself.
And you can apply it, but maybe not everywhere, or maybe in a slightly different form, adaptive way, somewhere else, that it works for your organization. Right?
Yeah, but it definitely doesn't help if you. I mean, zero trust is a good principle within your security program to have, just like least privilege, just like assume breach, right? Yeah. Those are all great concepts to have within your security program, but it doesn't really help you with transformation and business enablement.
No,
right? It really doesn't. So looking at transformations, Carlo, you mentioned that cybersecurity programs often lack, I would say, prioritization seen in the broader transformation. Yep. So I can imagine that there is a cultural shift that needs to happen within your company to make that happen.
Yep.
So what cultural shifts do you think are necessary to make security programs truly an integral part of digital transformation?
Yeah, we were just talking about trust, and I'm not protecting the organization because I of course I protect the organization, but I cannot say that I can 100% do it me alone or my team. I think we're all in this together. That's a very important context. So it's not we together protect the organization. I think what we need to do together is provide digital trust. So to our vendors, to customers, whatever. So we say we create an environment where there's digital trust. So we make sure your data is secure. Yeah. We make sure when you're a vendor of us that we've
vetted them
together, etc. Because it is a very vulnerable area where we're in. I gave the example at the exhibition I spoke 2 weeks ago that we had a vendor who's providing or a partner who's providing cans. So we make IFT. So food for children in Asia, and then if we make it, we need to put it into a can. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit difficult to ship it. And that vendor was, or that partner was ransomware in 2021. They could not deliver the cans for a certain period of time, and then the whole process stops. Right? Yeah. Then you have baby food you cannot put into cans. And so the whole supply chain gets derailed. Yeah. So this whole concept of trust. Trusting each other and making sure you work together in that area, I think, is critically important from that perspective. So, you said what is the cultural shift? Yeah, I think if you look at the CISO, I think the S is maybe security, but also maybe storytelling. Yeah. So if you want to drive the transformation in your organization, I think it's important that you understand what needs to happen, that you drive a roadmap. But I think it's equally important that you start sharing it, maybe even selling it, marketing it, branding it to your board, to senior leadership, to IT, to OT, etc. I think that is key in your role as cybersecurity leader. And I think that's also why you said, like, how are you reinventing security? Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm reinventing it, but at least I'm bringing a flavor as former leader in IT or in business groups. Yeah. That talked to customers, that worked in different organizations, that was consultant, etc. That say, like, I understand how you drive a digital transformation. Yeah. I apply some of the concept into the cybersecurity arena. So I make sure we shift left. I make sure that whatever big program we start from a security point of view, we are involved. I will make sure that everybody. So at the end of the day, I am responsible for cybersecurity in the organization, and I don't go into a Raki conversation, whatever. I think it's useless. It's a useless conversation. Yeah. I'm responsible for cybersecurity. I drive the program together with my team, but we're all in the same plane, right? Yeah. So if the plane goes down, maybe I'm the pilot, but the rest...
There is also false.
False. So we're in this together, and we make sure that the plane keeps flying, and we're building the plane while flying.
Yeah.
So we're making security better while we're also delivering our services to the organization. And I think that is key. So early involvement, storytelling, and it sounds ideal, but it's also not happening in my organization. At the end of the day, you want to create pull, right, instead of push.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes happening. Sometimes we still need to pull or push a little to get involved. But that is not. But what you want to do is create an atmosphere where people are willing to speak up and also contribute.
Yeah, and also have the feeling that they have a role to play.
Yeah.
That they understand what their role is.
Yeah.
Not plotted in a Raki matrix.
Yeah.
But in the actual job. Like, this is how you help the company keep being safe or safer. Yeah. That's
and the role of security is not like, let's use a metaphor. We're going to Mars, we're going on an endeavor to Mars, and the spaceship is being built. We are not the ones providing the suits only, the protective suits.
Yeah.
We're also mission control. So if something along the way changes, or there is a threat or a vulnerability or this or that, we're there to help. And together with the business, make sure that these things are solved. So it's not only protecting or only saying nay, but it's also making sure that you move forward, I think, in the industry.
Talking about storytelling, I'm sold.
He does a great job. That means that also your cybersecurity programs are going to change a little bit, I assume, if you have that approach. So what steps can organizations take to transition from the more traditional, purely risk avoidance focused security programs to maybe a little bit more of a value driven initiative? Of course, we had a podcast with Bibi on it, but how can they change to a value driven security program that aligns more closely to business objectives?
Yeah, I think that's the silver bullet question, of course.
Yeah.
We're always finding this metric that will show that we're doing, but it's always difficult to find. So how do you show that things are smoothly continuing? Maybe have stopped otherwise. Like that's very difficult. I don't have the answer to that either. But I think what helps is really going into this strategic position.
Yeah.
And I think we're in our organization, we're on our way. I'm not saying we're 100% there, but more and more board involvement is there, visibility is there. We also did a crisis simulation with the board last week, together with one of our biggest factories. We look like, okay, if something happens to our biggest factory, how do they respond? What do they need to do? What do we as a crisis management team centrally need to do, etc. So I think it's going. That helps because it's all part of selling the story, making them aware, etc. Also, we're starting a big SAP transformation program. There we have to make sure that we are early involved and not that we are on the co-pilot seat. Or co-pilot, at least in the plane. Before,
not on the ground.
Before they head off. And so that early involvement, I think is key. I think what's also is key is that don't become the department of nay, right? I think you need to be, you need to be assertive in this triangle. Sometimes what cannot be done, but also you need to look for ways to facilitate. And if you have a high customer satisfaction, it's much more easy on the back of that to demand things from people or to roll out stuff, etc. So that
and when you say high customer satisfaction, is that from an IT perspective that you're talking about, Carlo, or is that because that happened within the cybersecurity, information security domain? I'm just trying to understand.
No, that's overall. So that's the whole way people look at technology and perceive technology.
Yeah. So partnering with I would say the technology leaders within the company is also extremely important. I would say.
Yeah, we have quite a strong governance set up with now the IT people in the clusters, first line of defense. We put a lot of effort last year on strengthening the first line of defense. And this whole idea is we're the center of excellence. You need to execute, but together we're on the same plane. But you need to execute. We don't have the bandwidth nor the knowledge for your specific cluster, be it supply chain, be it commerce, or whatever, to execute that. Right. So you need to amplify the work you're doing on a center of excellence level. You need to amplify it in the IT teams, and we're also now going in the OT arena. where we're saying like, we've covered both IT, we cover OT, we're working third-party risk management. So we also work with procurement and HR. We go into adaptive zero trust. We need to work with HR. So we're actually broadening the whole scope. And also there, I think from a governance point of view, when NIS2 is coming, we said like, it's not an IT problem or an OT problem. It's something we drive together. So I drive it as a CISO, I orchestrate it, but we're bringing together legal, bringing together our risk management function, data privacy, OT leadership, IT leadership, all in one community to discuss the progress of the program along the way. And that helps. That helps a lot, yeah. And I think what you also need to do is, if you really want to be seen as a value enabler, at the end of the day, you need to provide also value to the organization, right? Where they can tap into. So what we are doing is Security Operations Center vulnerability management, just because we want to segregate that from the first line and we want to keep an independent view.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, maybe you want to provide services like pen testing or whatever to the organization, or application security knowledge, which you can provide to the different teams where they can tap into.
Yeah.
So if we demand things from them, maybe we need also supply some services around it where they can tap into.
And that's also how you then move from a more risk avoidance focused security program to a value driven security program, where you actually provide value with, I would say, initiatives that help the organizations or its services and products. I think that's also way more easy to align with certain business objectives than just focusing on avoiding risk.
You cannot. There is risk
everywhere.
There's risk, and there will be problems, right? When it happens, you need to be there.
Yeah.
So everybody who says like, "Oh yeah, we're protecting the organization, we accept no issues," then I think you're in the wrong place.
They're lying, probably.
You're in the wrong place. You will not sleep at night, I think. Yeah. So
No, I really like the way you have broken it down, Carlo. So really saying, be there to add value, right? Really help to protect the organization, so they know there's a fallback, right? They know somebody else is thinking along, looking along, and then really make sure it becomes a collaborative effort. You don't want to be that prosecutor or that rescuer all the time. You want to be somebody that's vulnerable, but also caring and assertive. I think I see that philosophy.
And that is a very thin line.
Yeah.
That you sometimes need.
Yeah. I understand that. Because sometimes
probably
you have to be a little bit strict. It can be.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But also the thin line from being assertive to being a prosecutor.
Yes.
And that helps, I think, if your leader is not maybe from a compliance function or whatever, or a very technology function, something like. Because you can easily step in the shoes of somebody who's sitting opposite of you. You know, I've been a leader for development and operations in FrieslandCampina. Security was part of my role. Actually, I started with the CISO role. I recruited the CISO in my team by then. But I had so many other priorities, right?
Yeah.
So I think as a CISO, then you need to make sure that it is for you, it's important, for the rest of your organization, it's important, but you are one of many priorities. And you need to make sure that you are somewhere in that priority list. You're at the the right place at the right time.
Yes.
We discussed like the drama triangle, right? And also like the winner triangle.
Yeah.
I think this is a great insight into more human factors and behavioral insights of the security team and of the people that you work with. So how does that play a role in moving from, I would say, a zero trust model to more of an adaptive trust model?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at, I don't speak to hackers daily, but what I see from all the assessments that are going on, hackers take a people view, right? They look like, how can we influence people in such a way that they do things that they would normally not do.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And then when I come from technology end or business end, and when I look at cybersecurity and technology end, I'm always thinking like, we try to solve that by primarily or to a large extent looking at processes and technology.
Yeah.
So on one hand, the hackers focus on the human part and we focus on the other part.
Yeah.
So there is sometimes a mismatch, right? And that's, I think, not smart. While the majority of incidents do not happen by a brute force or a smart move by a hacker. It just happens that somebody has stolen or got Jeroen to do something, got his credentials, logged into the system, and then things start to happen, right? So you can spend millions on beautiful stuff, but if that happens, and that is the difficult. And I'm always surprised. So my question is, Jeroen, you just told me that you parked here somewhere in Amsterdam. And then my question is, suppose you drove here this morning and then you were almost here, busy Amsterdam, and then somebody just crossed you and you had to push the brake. What happens in your brain? You're a very polite guy, but what was the immediate response in your brain when that happened? Somebody tried to push you off the road.
Yeah, I would definitely be angry. Yeah.
So, and you would potentially maybe curse in your head out loud.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what is happening in cybersecurity, right? Because we have this limbic brain. Mm-hmm. It's the oldest brain we have, and that makes sure that if there is somewhere is happening, something is threatening you, that takes over from your prefrontal cortex, and that also happens in cybersecurity. So you have this amygdala, which is 1 to 2 centimeters in your head. Mm-hmm. And if you're being threatened or somebody pushes you on the street, whatever, that takes over. Yeah. So you don't start to think logically. You start to think with your survival brain or your emotional brain.
Yeah. So what is your advice, I would say, Carlo, to train that? I would say, I would not ignore, because it's going to be very difficult to ignore something that's there with us, but at least to control and be more conscious about that. What is it? Is it simulations that one needs to do? Yeah. Is it meditation? I don't know.
I think the basic thing is we are not ready for this world, right? Because that thing is still very active. We don't actually need it in most of the cases where it triggers you. Yeah. So that is a little bit of the problem. So that is if it happens in daily life, let alone in an online environment, right, where you don't see the threat or etc. So what they will do, they will put pressure on you, or they will put authority on you, or they will use your family relationship, and then suddenly that limbic brain starts to work.
The survival.
And that is very difficult. What we do a lot, there was a whole debate on LinkedIn I saw by a CISO who said let's stop phishing simulations.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
It was interesting. I sat next to him and I was having a discussion with him. I think phishing simulation help, for instance, but then you need to also guide people after that. Yep. And I'm not so much a big fan of the prosecutor again, so pulling all these people together and 3 strikes out and whatever, because if that is the culture you do in the organization, people will never ever click a link again, or they will never report something, or they keep silent, right? Yeah. That is what happens. So that is not what you want. I think you want a environment of psychologically safety. Yeah. That's what you want, right? Yeah. Where people are free to speak up. And what we do, we focus them a lot on these things that they do. Yeah. They put pressure on you. They put urgency on it. They do this, they do that. Please be aware, and that's still your your cortex. That's the thing. Yeah. But you can delay, and we
the response.
Think before you act. Think before you act. Think before you act. And you can also do it with simulations. So we use a lot of communication mechanism in the organization to drive awareness and what's going on in cybersecurity.
I was wondering, like an example of the marketing and the stories that you tell.
Even my predecessor started it, so all the benefits go to him. But we have an awareness program being run. We have also an awareness officer who's driving that. And before it started, we did a session with KPMG where they did a cultural assessment, and we were mediocre. On 6 different topics, we scored mediocre. After that whole program, or at least to the end of it, we were better in class. Let's call it like that. Yeah. So we were in the industry in Netherlands. We were pretty seen as very high. So people in the organization were very aware about cybersecurity. So that was good. One of the things we did last year when I just started, we did a hack talk, as we called it. So we have our own television studio where we can broadcast to all our 22,000 employees. We had a hacker there from KPMG. I was there. CEO was there. We had a factory director there. And we had a facilitated discussion on cybersecurity, what hackers can do, how we look at it. And we showed all kind of videos. So just before that, we tried to enter several factories and our head office. And we made a video out of it. Hey, this is how easy it was. Yeah. Or this is how we got into the office. Please be aware of it. We had an interview with the packaging organization that I just talked about that explained how they got ransomware, etc. So that we did this last year.
You're showing the vulnerable part of it.
Yeah. And this year we made a magazine. We called it the Vogue for cybersecurity.
Oh, wow.
And I brought it with me. I can show you later.
Yeah.
It was basically a magazine, a glossy magazine, where we have interviews with myself, with the CFO, do's and don'ts. But we also have somebody, speaking about vulnerability, we had a senior leader who clicked the link and who got into trouble. And we helped him, of course. And he was very vulnerable. He said, I want to tell my story in an interview, which we did. So he's also in there. So in that way, I think you trigger people. Of course, you cannot manage that amygdala, but you can at least, before they do something, that there is some maybe hesitation, and only a few seconds can already help before they do something. And we have a pretty okay-ish click rate in our organization when it comes down to these kind of events. So
in the end, we will all click at some point. So I mean, it is just a matter of circumstances. So I remember at one point I was the CISO of an organization. And I was involved with legal on reclaiming one of our top level domains. So we had a brand, and the .com top level domain was owned by somebody else. And we made a couple of offers, declined. So they were going to court basically to say this is our copyright, etc. This is our domain. And at some point, I got a phishing email or an email with an attachment, and it said, it said it was a zip file. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a zip file from a lawsuit, and it said brandname.com legal.zip. Yeah, I was busy, didn't check the email, opened it up the attachment. Thought, oh boy, this is not good. Shut down the network connectivity.
Yeah.
Brought it to IT and they made fun of me. But
sure.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
But you can afterwards always go there and they make you laugh. But
I know,
they will help you immediately.
They will help you immediately. But it happens, right? I mean, it's just the context of what it fitted exactly into the context of what I was working on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that happens. So suppose you had a call with the help desk that morning, and you get half an hour later you get a message saying like, "Oh, can you evaluate our call? Can you click this link?"
Yes.
So how likely is it that you will click it?
Yeah, but it's what you said. So it's about that primitive brain taking over the decision making in that certain specific situation, and not the I'm reading a book. It's called The Phone Fix, and recommended, by the way. But it's about people's executive brain. That's the the Latin names for it. But the executive brain that controls our decision making and our long-term vision and planning, etc., is often tired of all the decisions that we made. And that's why, for example, it's best if you have a goal to get physically fit, to do that in the morning, because your executive brain is not tired. So when you come home with a tired executive brain, you just sit on the couch, and it's really hard because your how do you call it?
Prefrontal cortex.
No, the amygdala.
One.
Yeah, the amygdala. The more, I would say,
survival.
Survival brain.
It's like, okay, I'm just going.
Your reptile brain.
You're going for like quick dopamine fixes, and quick fixes like scrolling social media, sitting on the couch, watching television, because you don't have to work with your executive brain anymore. So it's if it fits, you will.
But the program was quite successful. Yeah. And it was so successful, I think, at the end of the day, I felt a little bit I was becoming the chief of not clicking links, right? And I was like, God, guys. So I was thinking, like, when I also spoke to board members, they were also like, the awareness program, clicking links. So everything we spoke about cybersecurity, people were referring to clicking links, etc. And that was and then I was thinking, like, but we are doing other stuff. We're making sure that our factories keep running, etc. Right? That is our primary purpose. Yeah. Processes need to go on. as quickly as possible. Processes need to run, etc. So I said, like, let's not call it cybersecurity. Let's call it digital safety.
Yeah.
So we branded our initiative to digital safety. And why? We had a very big physical safety program in our factories, later also in our offices. And every meeting started with safety, physical safety. And I think, well, if I link
that to
digital safety to physical safety, you can say it in one go. And people start to understand, like, okay, this is about physical safety, but there's also your computer where you need to be safe.
Yeah.
So then it started to...
So now, Carlo, you did not only from your strategy perspective try to lean on the success of IT, you also try to lean on the success of safety within the organization as well.
What I try to do is speak the language that people understand.
Yeah.
And that's about safety, whether it's digital, physically, or whatever. That's
actually quite smart. That's actually quite smart.
Branding, because it's becoming a little bit of a, how to call it, boilerplate term, cybersecurity. You hear it all day.
True. I think it really helps if you can tie it to other initiatives that are going on in your company.
That are successful and
that
going
are successful.
on.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to touch upon something that you call compliance theater. I think FrieslandCampina is a pretty regulated, heavy regulated company.
Yeah.
I can imagine that you have to be NIS2 compliant, that you have some food regulations as well. It's quite easy for a company like FrieslandCampina to work with or have a security program that is all compliance theater. How could you explain the concept of what you see as compliance theater, just for our listeners? But also, can you explain how you move beyond compliance boxes and moving towards digital safety issue?
I don't think we have it, but it's very easy for an organization like ours to become a compliance leader. I can do a great job being compliant, but at the end of the day, the question is, are we safe?
Yeah,
and that's not 100% aligned, right? Sometimes, of course, we need to comply with regulations, with food regulations, with whatever is out there, financial consolidation, whatever. So we do that, and we do that to the best of our abilities. But on top of that, I think we really need to take a risk-based approach. And then people are saying, like, okay, you need to implement NIS2. And then sometimes people are like, okay, how can we get that tick in the box? And then I said, well, for me, NIS2, I think it's not a tick in the box. For me, it's actually a driver to get things done in the organization. Because, yes, we want to move to a certain maturity level within our roadmap. And I say, well, if we do that, we automatically are very close or are already NIS2 certified or NIS2 compliant. Yeah. So we're using this whole NIS2 now as an umbrella to drive our maturity where we want to improve. Yeah. And I think that really helps, because then you come to a risk-based roadmap. You can say, like, okay, do we want to sign it off? So you have the mandate, you have the people, you can start the improvement program around it. And I think that really helps. So yeah, from that perspective, I think you can also turn it around.
Really using compliance drivers as a vehicle to make security happen.
Yeah, and also do it risk-based. Yeah. Because, to be very honest, NIS2, for me, it's not, when I read it, it's not 100% carved in stone. Okay, when am I compliant or not?
A bit vague somewhat.
So we also look like, okay, what do we feel is key? Yeah. What do we implement? And how does it adhere to NIS2? And I think what is great, what I really like about this cyber industry compared to other industries I worked with, is that whoever you ask for help, whoever reaches out to you, everybody helps each other. Providing links, providing spreadsheets, providing approaches. I think that's really great.
So, good community. It's really
we have competitors, of course, which is Frontera, Arla. Arla is pretty close by. It's in Scandinavia. And I think last week I was talking to the CISO of Arla. And then we were just, of course, we will not share everything, but we were sharing a lot of information with each other. As they always say, it's good to have a common enemy. Apparently, we have a common enemy, which is not Arla or FrieslandCampina in this case. It's somebody else. And then we say, how can we beat this enemy? Just by sharing. And I think that will also be very important in the future, right? If we do not share, and of course we have the ISACs, etc. But I think eventually there's maybe a step further needed to go into kind of a community. And I think some good steps are happening there.
Good call out.
Call out. So Carlo, as we move forward, what kind of emerging trends should organizations focus on to stay resilient and secure? Maybe more specifically, if you look at like digital trust models, or digital transformation, are there any things that excite you?
For me, it would be very easy to just say like, okay, quantum computing and AI, right? Everybody's saying that, so I'm not going to do that. I also feel like if you need to secure 50 factories worldwide, and we're still in the process of doing it, maybe putting too much focus on quantum is maybe also not the right incentive. No, I think it links a little bit back to what we just discussed. For the future, I think when you really look at models and behavioral stuff, etc., I really think it would be worthwhile to dig into this winner mentality, right? Instead of drama triangle. And drama triangle sounds a little bit like zero trust. It has a negative connotation. But even myself or my team or whatever falls sometimes in it. That we're saying, guys, now we're going into this.
This victim.
We don't have budget. We don't have people. Okay.
At least they didn't call it a loser model. So loser and winner model. It's
that
like we know. Drama triangle.
We need to move forward, right? We do it with whatever we have. So that's one. I think also think a little bit about how can you contextualize risk-based look at, on one hand, how people work in the organization, and on the other hand, also secure it. So find that balance between usability and also cybersecurity. We call it adaptive trust or zero trust plus or whatever you want to call it. So give a little bit of a flavor to it. What we have not discussed is that I also sometimes see that people are relying a lot on data. I'm an aeronautical engineer. I also studied social sciences, etc. So it's a nice blend. But in the aeronautical industry, it's pretty contextualized, right? You have a plane, it flies in the air. If you want to secure it, you take 1.5 of the force that you normally in maximum cases would apply to a plane, and you can design it, right? And there are all kind of things you need to take. It's much more complicated than I just said, but in general, you can make a model out of it. In cybersecurity, it's impossible. There's so many different contexts. There's so many different scenarios that you can only have data on a couple of that. And I think that is where the CISO comes in, and that is also what I sometimes call, you have this Fingerspitzengefühl, as they call it in German. Of course, you can rely on data, you can rely on facts, you can rely on inputs of your teams. But it's both a science, so looking at data, but because of all these different things that can happen, it's also an art. And there I think you need to apply your experience, your knowledge in your team, blend it together and make decisions when decisions need to be made. And that could be completely different than, suppose I tomorrow go to ABN AMRO and have a leadership role there. I could massively fail with the approach I currently take in FrieslandCampina, right? Or I go to Heineken, or I go to whatever, it could be. So I think the contextualization and bringing your experience to exactly that company, environment, etc. I think that is key, and that is something you cannot learn. It's also something you maybe need to feel about based on your experience. So I think that would also be a good step forward.
Adaptive CISO, being an adaptive
CISO.
It's the next gen CISO.
Transformational CISO, whatever you want to call it. I think cyber psychology remains interesting. I find it an interesting topic, maybe also good to dive into it in the future. I would love to do some research about it. So if there's a university or whatever is listening, I would love to speak with them about it.
I'm pretty sure there are quite.
That would be nice. Resilience is also another topic. I feel we're very much focusing on these first topics in NIST. So protect. Detect. I think resilience becomes. We cannot. I had a conversation with Dimitri also in the past about it. You cannot prevent everything. So when it happens, are you ready? Do you know what to do? Do you have the run books? Can you continue working while you're fixing the problem? I think resilience becomes key. And last but not least, we started with it. I think, look at digital transformation, become a part of the digital transformation, an equal partner in the digital transformation, but also apply some of the characteristics of a digital transformation into your journey.
To security.
Like branding, being early involved, having the right metrics, shared responsibility, explain in a very diligent way to people around you how you're providing value to them, etc. I think that would be some of the things.
I think we brought it full circle, back to the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, a nice circle.
So thank you for your truly valuable insights. I at least got a few good golden nuggets from this episode. So just as a last question, to make it also maybe a little bit more practical for CISOs, are there any practical steps that you could recommend to CISOs and security leaders that want to assure that their cybersecurity programs remain agile and adaptable in, I would say, the face of continuous change? So change within organizations is always ongoing. Are there any practical steps that you do to ensure that your program remains agile and adaptable?
Yeah, I think I already mentioned a few.
Yeah.
I think you need to, like I said, we have this big transformational program that's running. I think, you need to keep your skin in the game, and you think you need to be in there, right? Yeah. And of course, sometimes people like it. Sometimes they feel like it's an extra burden, but whatever. When you explain it in the right way, nobody will ever reject saying like, okay, we don't have time to look at cybersecurity, or we don't have time to look at digital safety, right?
Yep.
May cost some extra time, may cost some extra effort, but at the beginning, if you focus in the beginning, at the end it will pay off. But that is that you need to sell then, because initially they will think like, well, it will come, or we will take it in the later phases. So I think you need to be there, and I think you need to make sure that there is a realm around your program that people feel like, oh, it's exciting. Maybe it's not the area I would love to work in, but at least I understand where they're going, what they're doing, how it benefits me, etc. So that is more about the storytelling, the digital transformation part. So how can you make it sexy within certain boundaries for the organization to work on it? Because I feel it's not protecting them. Eventually it is also, and that's also a little bit of my personal mission, is making sure people can work with technology in a safe way. Right? They get the max out of technology. Yeah. And that is what we try to do with my team in FrieslandCampina, what I also personally try to do. And that sometimes means, we're hacked, but then we need to find ways to still keep people working.
Yeah.
Good. So we got, I think, a beautiful amount of good resources to read. Are there any others that you would like to mention for our listeners to follow up on?
I think this is interesting. This whole transactional analysis and the way of interacting not only helps in your business life, it will also help maybe in your private
personal.
It will help in life in general.
Yeah. You have to be careful, because before you know it, and you read a book or you go to a course, you go home and your wife says, "Oh, what did you do?" But it will help you sometimes. Also understanding how the dynamics between colleagues or the dynamics between teams, how they go. So transactional analysis is a very nice...
highly recommended. Okay, good. I'll include that.
Well, thank you so much. Once again, great to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, that was an interesting episode with Carlo Schreurs from FrieslandCampina. At least I had a few moments where I thought, it really resonated with me. It really clicked. But how about you, Irfaan?
Yeah, no. It was, it's always nice to do such an episode where I have to sum up myself, right? So Carlo was able to do that in this conversation, right? He was really able to take me from an operational way of doing security to really like a transformational way of doing security. So thinking about shifting the mindset from a drama triangle to a winner's triangle, I mean, it's a brilliant concept. And throughout the whole episode, I could clearly see examples of execution of his work when in FrieslandCampina, really relating towards that winner triangle, right? Where he said, try to be vulnerable, It's going to help you be more effective doing your job than just try to be the prosecutor or being the rescuer or even being the victim. Try to care. Try to really show them that you actually care about the job and them, and try to be assertive.
Yeah.
I really think if we just take those 3 different elements and plot it back towards how we do cybersecurity, as a leader, as a department, we're going to be not only more successful, but sustainably. The success is going to be sustainable because you're not going to just solve the security problem for the company in the next 3 months. You're going to actually solve it in a sustainable way because you're actually changing people, their minds and their hearts about how to do cybersecurity.
You're changing the foundation.
You're changing the foundation, which is the hardest thing. It's the people. It's the hardest thing to change. I mean, the processes we can change is hard, but we can. Changing technology is probably the easiest thing to do. But changing the people is the hardest thing. And I think he laid out a foundation over there for that. And I like his approach towards, as part of the same framework, to say, we're talking about zero trust. It might have a negative connotation, so why not call it adaptive trust? And there is something towards it as well, because he likes the concept of zero trust for sure, not the naming perspective, the concepts and the components with it. And then he wants to use that as a flexible way to also say, yes, in some of the occasions we are applying zero trust and some of them not. And then let's call it adaptive trust, because that will help more organizations probably to accept the concept itself and not be conflicting with other security principles and controls they have in place. Yeah. No, I found, to our listeners, I really think this is a great episode. You should listen. It's practical, really practical, if you want to be a transformational leader and CISO.
Yeah.
How about you, Jeroen? What were your thoughts on these?
I share exactly what you said. So I liked the purpose, passion, and perseverance.
Yeah.
I like the drama triangle, the winner's triangle. I like how that shapes your security program. I like how he approaches cybersecurity within a bigger digital transformation within the company, that he sees it as a change initiative, and that he looks at how to effectively change things, so change management basically. And he uses like marketing and finding a common purpose, etc., as a fuel, I would say, for your security program. And I think that's really good. So these are all my takeaways.
Yeah, when he was sharing sort of his vision and how he approached it, I knew this would resonate a lot with you, because you're also a transformational CISO.
Yeah. I found a peer. I found one. I found one. No, thank you all for joining us today with Carlo Schreurs. We appreciate you taking the time to tune in and explore reinventing information security with us. Remember, when the episode ends, the real question begins. What will you do differently tomorrow? Don't forget to subscribe to Reinvent Security on your favorite podcast player to stay updated with our latest episode. Your ongoing support means everything to us. We'll be back next month with another exciting episode. Until then, take care, stay curious, and we look forward to having you with us again. Cheers.
Bye-bye, folks.